I guess we're going to find out if Justin can cut glass on a curve.
Have you cut glass before?
I've cut glass, not on a curve.
What is your game plan for cutting that
I
curve?
thought you could say, what is your level of confidence?
I know that's pretty low.
My level of confidence is I need 2 of them, and I bought 4. Welcome to the Fine Home Building Podcast, our weekly discussion of building, remodeling, and design topics aimed at anybody who cares deeply about the craft and science of working on houses. I'm Justin, that's Brian, that's Rob, and over there is Jeff. Jeff is drinking a beer.
Jeff is drinking a beer. What are you drinking over there? Guinness?
Explain yourself, sir.
I'm surprised you guys aren't, but you know.
I had one at lunch.
As did I.
We had a little company picnic today.
This is my lunch, so
Ooh, nice.
liquid bread.
We were outside for lunch today, so it's a little allergic in here now.
Dig my eyeballs out
Yeah,
here.
and lunch is big, so it's a little tired in here.
And what's the saying we use, Rob? No one cares.
No one cares.
No one cares about what we have to say
Or
or
how we-
explanations for things.
Or how we feel.
Yeah.
You mean on the show?
Well, Rob says it a lot. Like when we're around the office and somebody goes, yeah, but I mean, like I missed that part because like my camera jammed up. Like no one cares. You didn't get the photo. That's what they know.
Right.
Yeah.
No one cares about why. Okay. You were listening to, I already did that part. FHBpodcast@taunton.com is the email address to get in touch with us. Finehomebuilding.com/podcast for the show notes. All right. We got a bunch of questions. We got a little best of segment. But before we started that, I wanted to...
Brian and I are both shocked right now. We forgot about that segment, but I got one on the back burner.
Scroll down.
I'll be good.
I think everyone in the audience knows that you guys don't do anything to prepare for the show at this point.
I do prepare for this show.
This is
I
easy.
prepared all morning. I woke up at 4 just to start preparing.
Okay. So I got a new project on the workbench, so to speak.
So to speak.
I have an existing
literally.
for a customer, an existing 48-inch wide interior doorway,
Case opening.
cased opening,
No existing door.
no existing door.
Okay.
You're with me so far, Rob. Brian?
I'm with you.
All right. The top of the doorway is elliptical, not to be confused with half round. Elliptical actually has 2 radii. So it's sort of like it's like as if you drew a half circle and then you stretch the 2 sides.
Right. So,
But it's not an oval.
if you continued, it's not going to be a circle,
Yes.
and it's not going to be an oval.
The sides of it are on a different radius than the top.
Right.
It's not going to be an oval either. That's the part that
Right.
confuses people.
Right.
So that's what I got.
Yeah.
A lot of people call those arches, or if you like try and do a Google search, which, by the way, sort of leads me into it, is I like to brush up on like the different methods that people are using to do certain things, because I have to build a pair of French doors to go in this opening, a pair. So it'd be 24 inches each, meet in the middle under this ellipse. And so I'm going, I'm thinking about the construction of the door, and people that have built doors or studied them know that the stiles, the sides of the door, extend all the way top to bottom, and then the rails go between the stiles. So if you picture that you now have half of an ellipse at the top, how do you handle where the stile meets the rail? Because now the rail is on an ellipse, the top of the stiles is on an ellipse. So it raised the question of like, does it still get assembled in the same way? And I eventually settled on yes, it does. But I wanted to see kind of what everyone else was doing. Like just kind of, I like to check myself with ideas. Like, has anybody tried this and found out it doesn't work for some reason? Or so when you try to go search for elliptical things, everyone just talks about half circles. So everybody just talks about a trammel, which is putting an arm on a router, picking a fixed point that's half of your circle diameter or your radius, and then just using that to create the arch. That doesn't work with an ellipse, so you have to make a different kind of trammel with 2 points that it references off of. Or in my case, I just made a template of the door opening with a piece of cardboard, trimmed it, because it's not actually a true ellipse. It's like, somebody framed it and it's like a little bit lopsided. It's not symmetrical.
You've got photos of this that we can post on the show notes page?
Yeah. Actually, there's a little video on my Instagram feed that you can go and check out.
Mr. J. Fink.
But anyway, so I'm working on that. So I just bought a new router bit set for doing cope and stick joinery for a door. And that's,
So this is going to be for the actual door construction, not like to create divided lights or anything
That's
like that?
it's for both.
Oh, okay.
So it creates the Copen.
It's inch and 3/8.
It actually does both. It's a sweet set made by Freud. It's set for 1 3/4 doors, so you can use it for exterior doors. And then you can take out 2 spacers, and by removing those 2 spacers, it shrinks to exactly 1 3/8 for an interior door, which is sweet. So I've been playing around with how I'm going to do that, and ultimately landed on, I think I'm going to do a combination of domino mortises and attached tenons. So domino mortises on the stiles before the profile is routed into the stile. And I think that's going to be the trick to this is, so if you know how cope and stick joinery goes together, is like there's like a little detail profile on the edge of the stile, and then on the end of the rail is the mating reverse of that profile, so they kind of latch together to give some glue surface and some detail. But typically, for a cabinet door, you can just put it together that way, and that's all the support you really need. For a bigger door, you need to have kind of a beefier mechanical connection. So mortise and tenon is kind of the way to go there. But in order to cut that mortise, I don't have a mortise machine, so I'm going to use a domino. But you need to kind of do that prior to cutting the curve in the top of the door, prior to cutting the profile on the inner edge of the stile. So it's going to be definitely a tricky build. And to be honest, I mean, I priced this job to be attractive to the customer because I wanted to do it.
Gotcha.
And I think that some builders and remodelers aren't so much interested in that. But I think it's important if you want to do more of a certain kind of work to make sure that you do the kind of work you want. And sometimes that means, making it an attractive option for a customer so you have an excuse to show it off.
You also have a day job.
I also have a day job.
Where some people may not have that luxury of
Maybe not.
just doing work because they like to do it.
It's not
At a certain price point.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes sometimes you can, though. Sometimes it's the extra job that you're willing to do at night without making a lot of money on it.
True. What are you making these doors out of?
I'm going to go buy the wood tomorrow. I think I'm just going to do soft maple. I was thinking about it. Doug fir is a popular choice, but it's so splintery. And while doing all that cope and stick joinery, I just don't really want to deal with the splinters because it can ruin an otherwise pretty clean joint. And because it's paint grade, I kind of wanted to opt for stable, fairly hard, but also not super pricey.
Right.
Because I'm not charging that much to do the job. So I landed on soft maple. But I'm going to put in that restoration glass.
Yeah, where do you get it from?
Bendheim.
Bendheim. You get it online?
Bendheim, yes. Yep, they have all sorts of different kinds of glass. I just sent a link to Brian this morning because I was on the webpage. They have a restoration mirror there, which is pretty cool.
Very nice,
it's like
yeah.
an old-fashioned wavy glass mirror. I don't think you want to shave using it, but it looks pretty nice.
So this
and
restoration glass has slight imperfections.
Yeah, it's wavy.
Wavy. Some
I think it's
air
actually.
bubbles.
I think it's actually mouth blown glass
Mouth blown.
or blown glass. I think it's mouth blown. They sell it in full restoration and like a light restoration. So like you can decide how much distortion you want. It's a super cool
You're doing
looking
individual
glass.
lights.
Yeah,
This is going to have.
and the top one's curved.
Wow.
So I gotta bust out the glass cutting skills on this. So I bought a little extra glass, which is not cheap when you're buying restoration glass.
Yeah.
And
How are you gonna?
I guess we're gonna find out if Justin can cut glass on a curve.
Have you cut glass before?
I've cut glass, not on a curve.
What is your game plan for cutting that
I
curve?
thought you were gonna say, what is your level of confidence?
I know that's pretty low.
My level of confidence is I need 2 of them, and I bought 4.
Right.
The game plan is to use a glass cutting tool, a hand tool with the scoring thing on the end. It has a little oil reservoir to make sure it's lubricated, and make a nice, slow, deliberate cut along a Sharpie marked line, and then just what I'll probably do is make some radial score marks. So, like you've established your curve and then you kind of come off of it on a tangent so that you have segments. So you're not trying to break off
breakaway
one
big piece.
Yeah, sort of like you do if you were notching a piece of ceramic tile.
Right.
And then, I'll probably come back and be extremely humbled. And the reason why I'm doing it myself is because I called a local glass shop and they didn't even call me back. It was just like, nope.
That's great. I love when I love that kind of service.
Yeah.
It's the best kind.
Yeah.
So we're going to find out. It's going to be an adventure. I hope to be able to share some photos of it all coming together. I'm sure I'm going to be humbled and learn some new lessons. And for me, that's pretty much the fun of it, is pushing the boundaries a bit. I've done a lot of door hanging, a lot of, I've made several doors, but I've never done elliptical top doors.
Are you gonna be hanging them in the existing
Yeah.
jam?
Yeah. So I'll apply a stop around the interior, all the existing jam, route in some, mortise in some hinges.
With a template or something?
For the hinges?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll just make a little, like a U-shaped cutout kind of a piece that I can tack onto the jam and then use a trim router to make a short little mortise.
Yeah.
But it'll be fun to see, having to deal with cross-legged jams and making those French doors meet in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
And
You can cheat the stop.
yeah.
Nobody will see it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because one of them will have a stop on the front.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Yes.
Are you doing any hardware to bolt them down to lock them into place? Like bolt them into the floor, into the top of the...
The original plan was to do some sort of a ball catch at the top so that it didn't need to have latching hardware. I don't know. I feel like we sort of punted on that. Like, yeah, we'll come up with something.
We'll figure that out later.
What do you guys think? I don't really want to deal with two knobs, like one fixed and one latching into the other door. I guess that's not that big of a deal, but
Slide bolt.
like when you latch two doors together, they're not necessarily still super stable.
Right.
Right.
Like they can still have a little bit of movement to them. I don't think bolts that slide into a floor makes much sense because then you got to drill a hole in the floor.
Right.
And who wants to bend over to unlatch a door every time you want to move it?
I think that would be that's more appropriate when one side's typically going to stay shut.
But then again, the ball catch it has some weaknesses too. When you're talking about a full height door and all you have at the top is a ball, you're getting a little bit of flex as you're either pulling it out or pushing it in. The door tends to want to.
Why do they want these doors?
Why do they want it?
Like, okay, are they going to use them a lot? Are they going to be
Justin
opening and
sold them on
closing them a lot?
Yeah, it's because I sold them on. No, it's the background of the story is that I built them a similar set of doors for this woman and her husband moved from a super old house that was like, it was this real wonky framing. They moved somewhere else, but at this original wonky house, I built them a pair of divided light French doors for their front door. So that's what this is. They liked the doors so much that they took them when they moved, and they called me over and said, "Hey, can you rehang these?" And I'd cut them to fit their house, so like the top is sloping 2 inches from one side to the other. They weren't designed for an elliptical opening.
Yeah.
And I was like, we can reuse this glass. That was pretty much what I said to her. Like, how about I take the glass out of the doors, rebuild them in the style to fit this opening, and we just go from there. But now that I'm talking it out loud, I think I'm going to have to do a latch hardware that where door meets door. I think that's probably going to be the best bet. Otherwise, the ball catches are going to have some flex. And the thing at the bottom's no good. What do you think?
It's at a slide bolt, right at that mid rail.
Oh, door to door.
Door to door. It's still gonna flex a little bit, but it's a pretty rigid.
The one nice thing about that option actually is that you can just have decorative dummy knobs then.
Yes.
And the mechanism to keep them closed is just the latch.
Yeah.
Question for you. It's a doorway. So which side does the latch go on? Because now you can't open the door except for the side with the latch.
What are the two rooms?
One's a hallway and one's like the living room area.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So I don't think that's going to work.
It's not gonna work.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out.
Thanks, guys.
But the latch goes on the inside. That's how you'd be able to lock the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what if you want those doors to stay closed? while you're not in the
So
room.
you're never going to use the latch. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah,
You'll never
you're
use the
gonna
barrel
use
bolt.
latch.
Jeff, what should I do?
Cremone bolt.
What is that?
That's the.
I'm glad I asked because you knew that Jeff had the answer. He wasn't going to say anything.
See, this is typical.
It's the bolt that goes the full length, top to bottom.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Those are sweet.
Yeah.
That
what is that called?
Cremone bolt.
How do you spell that?
I don't know.
Cremone?
I believe that's how it's pronounced.
It's like
It's
I've never
French.
I've never
That's
done
like
one of those.
That's kind of like a 3-point locking system on some
Yeah.
exterior
Yeah.
doors where you
Yeah.
like lift the door handle up and it
Those are pretty
locks to the
sweet.
sill in the head.
Surface mounted and decorative.
Yeah,
Yeah,
do that.
Those are pretty sweet.
Nice markup on those.
Yeah. I already gave her a price though. I can tack it on.
You gave her a price for. Okay, Justin. You want to call Sean Van Dyke?
Yeah. I don't do time and materials.
Fixed price model.
Fixed price model.
Yeah.
Profit.
Clearly-
Overrated.
Clearly you don't read the magazine, Rob. We're switching over to fixed price.
Okay. How do you do fixed price if you don't know what hardware you're using? I thought that was part of the.
Yeah,
you-
Justin like he
forgot
only read the headline
he forgot
so
the-
far.
he
He was
forgot-
like, I really like this
He
idea.
forgot the upfront decision making process.
No, the plan originally was to reuse the hardware that she already had, which was dummy knobs. And I figured if we went to something like a barrel bolt or a ball catch, it would be, it's not going to cost me more than $30. So factor that in and roll the dice.
It's an easy conversation when you
Yeah.
show her the picture of these and say, this is going to be a little bit more. She's going to be, yes, it is. I want those.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed. How's the upstairs coming, Rob? Get a CO yet?
No.
Still painting?
I'm still painting. Did some grouting over the weekend in the bathroom. Floors in.
Subway tile?
Subway tile.
Unsanded or sanded grout?
Unsanded.
Yeah, it's a good
Tight
move.
joints.
It's a good move.
Tight joints, folks.
Did you go white tile with black joints?
Not black, but charcoal. Pewter.
Ooh, yeah.
I didn't go black, so the next
Does it look awesome?
grade up. It looks good.
I want to redo my shower with that. Because I get the red iron staining, that I mentioned.
yeah.
All the way to the ceiling.
But also, Brian, I don't want to redo my shower with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Don't be redoing stuff. Yeah. Don't redo anything. Yeah, I got a bunch of painting to do still. Painting trim. Getting close, though.
You look a little sleepy today.
There's all those beers at lunch.
Yeah. You guys want to do some questions?
Yes.
Oh, this is a good one. Alex writes. Oh, I thought Brian was holding his finger up to me. Sorry. He was just moving his microphone. Alex writes, after following and listening to the Fine Woodworking podcast and making some progress as a novice woodworker, I suddenly find myself weighing my options regarding a remodel. So this is a two-part question. Where does one even start with a kitchen redesign? Do I hire a kitchen designer, an interior designer, or do I just DIY the design based on things I know I want? A friend of mine makes cabinets and does kitchens, and he's agreed to help out. So do we just put our heads together and go for it based on my design wants and his experience? That's the first 4 questions into one. The second round here is, I've told my friend that I'll act as his assistant. I've helped build a spec house or 2, and I do some woodworking. I'm not afraid to jump in and teach myself new skills, but aside from plumbing and electric, what are some good things for someone like me to tackle versus defer to a pro on? My biggest fear is that my woodworking mentality will cause the project to drag on endlessly or get way out of control budget-wise. You are correct on that last part.
Yes.
Woodworkers have no place in the kitchen. So let's do the first one first. Sort of where to start. And Brian, you've done between the two of you guys, you've done a lot of stories on kitchen remodels.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So share some wisdom.
Well, the first thing that I'd want to know, and he could ask himself, is just sort of, there's kitchen remodels where you're installing new cabinets, replacing the cabinets,
Replacing whatever's
maybe
just there.
replacing the flooring, but you're not moving anything. You're not moving walls. You're not rearranging anything. Plumbing staying about where it is. In that case, I don't think necessarily that Alex needs to go hire an architect or a kitchen designer to get that kind of professional help that he could maybe work with a friend who has some experience. He can maybe work with a cabinet showroom, that really knows what's available and how to help him measure and size things and get the stuff that he needs and maximize storage, that type of thing.
I would look at a lot of imagery online and just get a really good idea of what you like and don't like.
Absolutely. When it comes to, I'm not even at style yet, though.
Oh, okay.
I'm just talking about like,
Function.
whether or not you want to, one of his first questions was, do I hire a kitchen designer, interior designer? I would, in my experience, if the kitchen remodel is going to go much further than that, I'd hire someone who knows how to do design.
Much further than just replacing cabinets?
Replacing stuff where it is.
Okay,
That's
so that's what I'm
interesting.
saying. If you're just replacing the cabinets, you're not touching the footprint, then it really becomes to me a matter of looking at what style you want. That's why I jumped right there.
Well, yeah, at that point it can become about stuff, but also about functionality of
Sure,
the cabinetry
yeah.
and stuff like that too. Because there's great little things. I just think if you're opening up the door to rethinking entries and exits from the kitchen, connections to other rooms, thinking about moving workstations around, that a good kitchen designer or a good architect, even if you don't go full service with them, can just point out a lot of stuff that you may not know to think of. And before you jump in, Rob, because I
We're actually not going to go to Rob. We're going to go to Jeff.
I also, you can. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of places you can go for information, like a little magazine called Fine Home Building, which has kitchen and bath issue every year. So there's a lot of good stuff that can help get to this point. But I know from my own experience and from just being surprised over and over and over again when I see professionally designed kitchens at the stuff that they think of.
There's
Yeah.
going to be an added level of creativity, I think, in the design when you're going with a designer. But I think to your point, I guess it depends upon the scope and the scale of his project.
Sure.
Because a lot of the content that we have published kind of gets around or at a lot of the common questions that you might have, like how much room do I need between my island and the adjacent cabinetry so that I can still open my dishwasher, and all those circulation questions that you might have. There's lots of information on like those set dimensions. Lots of information on. I mean, most people use their kitchen in much the same way.
But I would argue that if he's talking to
You
a
know.
cabinet maker, that the cabinet maker is probably going to have a lot of experience with.
He's
You're
gonna-
going to want this hinges that extend to this degree over here, and
This
you want
size
this much space
cabinet.
for scribing. And
Yeah, or like this size cabinet here. Like,
Yeah.
okay, this is going to be your range. So obviously you're probably going to want a spice rack, maybe a pull out that I've done on another job right here. So I think he's listening to the podcast. He's handy. I mean, he's versed in woodworking and stuff. I think he could probably piece together a pretty good design. And and I'm also, I'm with Justin. He's got a cabinet maker helping him who's knocked out kitchens before,
Right.
Who's executed a bunch of designs.
Yeah,
so he's definitely
I'm not,
learned.
I'm not at this point of the conversation. I'm not concerned about the execution of the work. I'm just thinking design and like I would even say you could get close and then review it with someone maybe. I'm working on a story with Paul DeGroot right now, and it's actually exactly this. It's the big picture of the kitchen design process. So it's before you get to picking finishes, materials, cabinets, colors, anything like that. It's like, what are the things that Paul wants to work with his clients on before he even gets there? And he starts to talk about clearances and islands and whether an island fits in your kitchen or not. And he says, that there's this minimum, I want to say he says 36 inches, there's this minimum aisle width. But then right away he says, for most people, it's not enough. For most people with a family and with a busy kitchen, I like to give them 48 inches.
Yeah.
And it's those kind of things that I think the designer can sit with you and talk to you and get to know you a little bit and how you live in your kitchen and say, you know what, standard, the recommendation for the hypotenuse of the work triangle is this, but because of the way you live, I think you can squeeze it a little tighter. You can save some space here, and then you can have a breakfast nook over there, which you might not get to. I've seen a lot of kitchens that have been done without kitchen designers or architects that are great. No doubt about it.
I've seen
There's a lot of smart people.
I've seen a lot of kitchens that have been done by an architect or designer that are terrible.
So it works all different ways.
Yeah.
But with a good designer, a good architect, I think they help uncover things that maybe
For sure.
can be hidden to us.
Yeah.
right.
And we also know a lot. And maybe Alex
I-
does too, but maybe he doesn't. We've been, especially you and I, Rob, who covered this stuff for the magazine for years, design stuff. Like we've learned a lot.
And I also think that's for me, it's probably the fun part. I mean, I like the execution, but I love the design part. So have your buddy knock him out, but I'd be all over that design.
Yeah, I would,
Yeah.
and I would say just from doing a lot of design of my own projects and projects for other people is, spend some time coming up with whatever design you like. Draw it out, use a SketchUp or whatever program you're comfortable with, and then no matter how much you love it, start over completely with something else and just see where it
what
goes.
happens.
Yeah, because I bet you will end up drifting off into something that will maybe turn into nothing, or it will be enough of a new lead that you will then adapt some of it into the original design or change completely. At least I tend to, when I'm doing design, is I start to chase something all the way to the end before I've really considered other options.
Yeah.
You just kind of like, you're trying, like, it's more about you want that puzzle to finish and you want that puzzle to work instead of just trying 3 big, totally different approaches.
Yeah.
I was convinced that my kitchen, when I remodeled it, was going to look this certain way, and now it looks completely different when I actually did the job. It takes several days of like being completely sure that you're done, and then going, well, what if I just tried this? And then you go totally different. You need to be able to break that.
Yeah.
I think Alex should send us the existing floor plan and we'll redesign it on air.
One of the things that Paul is trying to say with this story is that you're gonna have so many decisions to make. You're gonna have so many nitty-gritty decisions to make once you get into the design, that not to forget to take the time to really just think about schematics, just the big picture, just coming into and out of the kitchen, arrangements of things. And to Justin's point, you can do that too, looking online.
Sure.
Look at how kitchens are put together, how they're arranged. You can get inspiration for different ways of.
But understand what you're looking at too. I mean, if this guy does woodworking and some building, hopefully he's going to be smart enough to know, like, how many times does a client go, I want my kitchen to look like this, and like as a builder, you're like, well, you don't have cathedral ceilings, A.
Right.
You don't have a room that's, this kitchen is 3 times as big as yours. You don't have a window here.
Yeah.
Like, so what do you like about this?
Right.
So you need to be realistic with what you're looking at.
Yeah.
But from a design point of view, it can work great. Like, I like this treatment. I like this style. I've discovered I like open shelves. I found out that I like bracket feet on cabinets, or, figuring out doors versus drawers. Like, that stuff is all
Drawers.
I mean, so like, if you dig into it from like a functionality standpoint, what things have you guys picked up over the years that you feel like at this point you would incorporate into your own kitchen? Like, 'cause I know that open shelves is a big trend. I like the way they look. I don't think they're functional from a cleanliness point of view. Like, they just get greasy.
You're going to be constantly washing them.
But they can be a cool accent, and maybe that's okay as a trade-off.
Put your cookbooks up there if you want.
But I like drawers certainly over doors, but they're more expensive. You're going to pay more for that option.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people have doors. At this point, I like painted better than
On that point,
natural
though,
or wood finished.
if it's an affordability thing, put a couple of really useful drawers in, and then do doors. So for example, like the garbage and recycling drawer and the sort of pantry style drawer for like spices and things. By the way, put a couple of hard-working drawers in, and then do doors where where you're going to stuff paper towels in the back and things like that.
Or you can solve it the other way, like the things that are a hassle for you now in your drawers, like, I keep all my pots and pans in a door, and I don't know if I want to have a big drawer or I can't afford that. Then what about hanging them somewhere?
Yeah.
And maybe that's an option, or an open shelf under the island that you can stack
That's
stuff.
a really good point, because the way you live now in your kitchen has a lot to offer.
Yeah.
In terms of
totally.
how the next kitchen should be designed.
Yeah. And sometimes a good designer is what you need to help tug those things out, though, because you'll be like, well, what do you want your kitchen to be like?
Absolutely.
I don't know what I do.
Right.
And if you really start to watch yourself, you will know what you do.
Right.
Like, my first kitchen in my first place, I redid it, and I did a plate rack and then hooks underneath it for my coffee mugs. And years later, it's got to be a decade now, I still have not fully recovered from liking that setup. Like, I'm annoyed that I have to go in and like take the bowls off the top of the stack of plates to get the plate I want, and like reach up to a shelf for it's like
I have
they
the
were
coffee
right
mug
there.
hooks. That's good.
was
I like
so
the coffee
good.
mug hooks.
Not bad.
And the plate
Yeah.
rack looked really cool too. It was like a nice little accent change of breaking up the monotony of the kitchen.
We had a kitchen in the kitchen in Bath issue last year, and the woman did the plate racks, and she always does them, and she says she has to talk almost every client into the plate racks, and almost every client that she gets to talk to later on about their kitchen, it becomes the thing that they're most pleased with.
I
Really?
love a plate
Yeah.
rack.
That's cool.
It's so
Yeah.
functional. I can get very excited about plate racks.
Remember we published a tiny kitchen once that didn't have a dishwasher. And they did plate racks with metal grates.
Yeah.
And
a metal backsplash.
It could drain, a metal backsplash and a stainless steel sink with drain boards. And the plates could be put away wet.
Yes.
And they would drip onto the drain boards, roll into the sink, out the door. I love it. That's hard work.
Out the door.
What about the helping out thing? I mean, because my opinion on this is, how did this whole thing unfold? Like, is this your buddy and you guys just want to kind of bro down and hang out, and that's cool?
Does your buddy know about this project that he's been signed up for?
Like, I mean, because if you're like just sort of casual friends and you think like, hey, maybe I'm gonna ease my burden money wise by helping out, you're not gonna help with efficiency. If this guy's a cabinet maker, I don't care how good of a woodworker you are, you're gonna slow him down.
Well, and I think
he's got a system, and he's going to have to bring you up to speed on the system.
Right. If it's like, we've all done stuff on our own houses that we had no experience doing, and we're willing to do it because we're willing to take the time to do it. There's not a rush. It doesn't have to be done tomorrow. So if he's bringing
even this year,
right? So if he's bringing his buddy as in like, hey, I'm hiring you to do this job, and his buddy's going to want to get in there and get out of there, then yeah, you're absolutely right. If it's more like he's willing to take the time to do this at his pace, and the buddy's willing to be a little bit of help, then I'd say go try to do a lot of it.
Sure.
If you take your time and go slow, especially if you do some woodwork.
If you're a woodworker, this is not.
Yeah.
You're putting together. It's
plywood boxes.
Yeah. I mean, there's clearances to know about.
Sure.
He mentioned like, what should I not try and do myself?
Yeah.
Drawer hardware, I think, is a learning curve. There's study those sheets very carefully, because there's a lot that rides on the clearances and dimensions for modern slides.
Tight tolerances,
and you have to know the right depth, the right width, the clearance, the size of the drawer box you're going to make, because one little slip up in figuring out the measurements and the parts are useless.
Yes.
It will not work, and you've wasted all that money and time. So
there are.
What about all? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say there are now those. They're probably the most expensive and high-end slides there are, but that there are those undermounts that are adjustable in every which direction. So,
Bloom?
Yeah, Bloom. Now Cliff was showing them to me when I was
new?
out visiting him. I don't know if they're new or not. I had never used undermounts before.
Oh yeah.
And he said these are the only ones he uses, and he just showed me how like they're, he said especially for like doing insets.
Yeah.
He said they're just magic.
Yeah, you can. There's like a little wheel under there. You can move side to side, or you can slide it back and forth to move the drawer face up and down.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're soft close built in. They're not even that much money either. I think it's like $25 for a pair or something.
So there you go.
I mean, it used to be, maybe it's $30.
What about the sub-trade kind of work that he's talking about? Like,
well, he did say, other than electrical and plumbing, what should I not tackle myself? So I feel like we're good there. He's not going to try those things. Yeah.
I mean, he's not going to bring.
It's pretty easy to get screwed up when it comes to drilling the holes in the back of that sink face cabinet. I know a lot of people think, you measure the pipe, you measure the cabinet. Yeah.
So you're saying not to do the plumbing.
That's easy to get screwed up, that hole. Because you don't have the cabinet all the way in place. So therefore it's not leveled and plumbed.
Correct.
Yet you're trying to drill an accurate hole for where something's going to come through. It's pretty easy to get wrong.
Yep.
You would do your own plumbing? I mean, obviously I would.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to Brian's point, depends how extensive it was.
How extensive it is, yeah.
But
what access is like, all that kind of stuff.
It's not a bathroom, it's supply lines and drain lines for the sink.
Could be. You could put a toilet in the bathroom.
Toilet in the kitchen?
That's right. Toilet in the kitchen.
You could. Everything else.
Closed loop.
But I mean, everything. But I mean, in an average remodel, I mean, unless it's like extensively where he's not comfortable framing or doing that kind of demo, I don't know. He should be able to handle everything else. A little bit of drywall. He's not going to get a sub to come in and patch a wall.
Right. Tile is very friendly to beginners. Depending on the materials.
And the tile.
I don't know about that.
Depending upon the tile.
I think tile looks easy, and there's a big difference between people who know really how to do it and people who you can walk in and tell they just figured, hey, tile's not a hard thing. I can do that myself.
Tile, and I admittedly have only done tile a few times, but tile, I feel like if you slow down, if you take the time to figure layout out, things like that, before you even start, and then you can feel confident going forward if you do a little bit at a time. If you take it slow, if you are willing to take it slow and be patient with tile, I don't find it that challenging.
Except that thin set setting up.
The thin set setting up.
That stuff.
But yeah.
That stuff stays.
Yeah, I know.
Stays workable for so long.
You have your spacers. You've done your layout.
Squeeze a little sponge of water in there, mix it up, and you're good to go again.
I did scrub on my grout though, in terms of that, because that does set up a little bit faster.
You what? You screwed up your grout?
Well, I didn't screw up my grout. I just attempted to knock out the entire. I tried to knock out the entire tub surround at once. But I probably should have done was just on that big back piece in one batch, and then do the two.
Because you weren't fast enough to make it all happen.
Yeah, and then that was setting up faster.
I mean, an experienced guy's going to do that all in one go.
Yeah.
But if it's your first time, I get it.
But then also, like, when I was striking the joints, like, yeah,
Did you use the Sharpie trick?
I probably could have made it. I didn't use the Sharpie trick.
For striking the joints?
Yeah, because the grout joints were too small.
What'd you use?
I used a paint can opener.
Paint can opener?
Yeah, like the back edge of it.
A metal one?
Yeah.
You dragged a metal paint can opener onto your ceramic tile?
Yeah.
Fine with me, Rob.
Yeah, what's your concern?
Well, you're dragging a metal thing across ceramic is my concern. It'll leave a mark a lot of times.
But it didn't. It doesn't.
I wouldn't recommend it to people.
So if it doesn't scratch it, if it doesn't leave a mark.
It didn't in your case.
In my case, I got really expensive, the top of the line subway tile.
It's probably not actually ceramic, maybe that's why it didn't
Then you're
scratch.
highly skilled.
Yeah, I'm highly skilled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For everybody else, you can use the ass end of a Sharpie marker. That's a great
You could do that.
size. A wooden dowel
Yes,
is
wood
also
would
a
be
nice piece.
Wood would be nice.
Wood is not going to leave a mark.
Nope.
Just saying.
But the profile's going to change. That's you. It's fine. All right,
It doesn't matter for the kind of thing I'm doing.
Yep. Do your own tile. Do your own plumbing. Do
Get
your
out of the
own
way of the
drywall.
cabinet maker.
Get out of the way of the cabinet maker. Button up the trim because you know how to do that.
Greg writes, pressure-treated furring strips seem to be the rule in coastal construction against block walls, but how does this affect drywall screws? Screws are not ACQ rated as a general rule, so do I need to worry about corrosion?
Huh.
Oh, that's a good question.
It's a great question.
Excellent question.
Never thought about it.
So we're talking about like block exterior walls and then PT furring strips on the inside before they hang interior drywall.
I think that's what
okay.
it's saying.
I mean,
I'm going to go with, I don't know.
yeah, I mean, it's,
I'm not sure.
I mean, you need water for this to be
Right.
a problem.
Is that true?
Well, yeah, I mean, you need a electrolyte, a catalyst, something to kick the corrosion into gear. But water's not unheard of in concrete. In fact, it's quite common. I mean, I guess the answer is if you're really worried about it, then I have two answers here. One, put up drywall adhesive in addition to screws, and then really just don't worry about it.
There you go.
Because the drywall adhesive is going to back you up if those screws corrode, and you should be using adhesive anyway if you want a good job. Second, no, I think so.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
It was a pretty definitive statement.
Listen, I'm a very definitive guy.
I don't think I've ever used drywall adhesive.
You've never done drywall right either.
I'm trying to think of the guys who just hung the second floor of
no
my house
way.
did drywall adhesive. I should call them back, tell them to rip it out, put it up right.
You didn't even think about it before they did it? You didn't ask?
I know that it's a thing, but I didn't. I don't have the definitive position that you do that, like, without drywall adhesive, it's not as good of a job.
I think I'm at the point where that's my definitive stance.
Okay.
I mean, maybe it could be a fine job without it, but it's not as good as it could be.
I will say they did a beautiful job.
Not as good as they could
I
have
think
done.
that quote, that there should be a quote in our next newsletter from the editorial director of Fine Home Building. Rob Yeaget on drywall adhesive. I know that it's a thing, but ellipse.
Yeah. Rob's he's out of the loop now. He's the editorial director. He's not down in the trenches making articles.
Gluing drywall.
Gluing drywall
He's like, what's
on.
this glue stuff? I'm still using nails. That's the way I learned it. I don't have to change. It's good enough.
They read a callback?
Yeah. So I would do that. The adhesive, either if you want to have more bang for your buck, get the spray adhesive as opposed to the caulk gun adhesive
The foam.
because it goes farther. You get more out of a can, better yield. Barring that, you could just use corrosion resistant screws. I mean, you
What
can
would
still
you
put those
use?
in a drywall
like
gun.
an exterior coated
Yeah, I guess.
screw?
Yeah.
Just like one of those sort of ubiquitous exterior construction screws?
Yeah. You can still get them an 1.25 inch. I just think, I don't know. I would look around. I mean, how many people do you know that are having problems with this failing? Maybe ask the contractor. They're going to probably lie to you.
What is the coating on a drywall screw that makes it black? Is it just painted black?
No, it's actually a black metal. Well, it's like a dark gray, but I think they have some sort of like an oil. Just, you know, how they have a slightly oilish texture. Black oxide.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going with that either.
You're not going to what?
Said I'm not going with that either. I don't know.
It's not black oxide.
No.
That's a type of drill bit.
What are we talking about here?
Because it's not. I mean, it's a finish on a drywall screw. It's there's something done to it because
Charcoal.
it's like it's shiny black.
Probably. Like
Yeah.
charcoal. I think it's more like a semi-gloss or satin, but
Depends.
Greg, we don't know.
Yeah.
I like the adhesive idea.
Yeah. I mean, you're doing it wrong if you don't have adhesive, so
So yeah,
do the adhesive.
and then you got no problem.
Yeah.
I dare you to write me a letter and prove me wrong.
Yeah.
FHBpodcast.com. So our best of segment. We're going to skip a question. Go right to that.
Best of. Can I go first?
I haven't announced it yet. Favorite
Video.
video or video series that Fine Home Building has done?
Easy.
There's a lot to choose from.
Easy. he
Easy. Go
says.
for it.
I think it's easy.
Easy.
What do you got?
I like the Ultimate Deck Build Woodbury Edition. I don't know if people will know what the Woodbury reference is because I'm not sure if that's how the project was named, but it was a grade level deck.
I believe it had a year associated with it. Do you want me to try and find out what it is?
Sure. Grade level deck, Woodbury built locally here by your very own Justin Fink and Chris
Aarons.
Chris Aarons, who's a carpenter out on the Cape that we kind of trucked over for a few weeks
Yeah.
to build this beautiful grade level deck out of mahogany, stainless steel cable rail. Despite the aesthetics, which were like definitely top notch.
Ultimate Deck Build 2015.
Okay. You just get so much information around just general deck building knowledge, setting footings and posts and
Yeah, there was
rolling rafters. And
what was it? I think 7 or
Yeah,
9,
rafters.
9
Rolling
episodes.
joists. Yeah.
No rafters.
No rafters. Joists and flattening joists and making sure that deck is super flat.
I made a mistake in that build, and it was pointed out. I will now.
Oh, Girton,
Yeah, I will
corrected
now.
you?
Well, other people have too. It's in the section on. We did some support brackets for bracing the guardrail posts, and so you would put this. What you want to do is connect the rim joist to the joist using this angled bracket, and that way, when you put the guardrail post attached to the rim, it's not just the rim; it's the rim tied back to the joist, and the whole thing
Right.
gets more stable. I put those angled brackets down low towards the bottom of the joist and explained that would make it stronger, and it actually should have been at the top, near the top of the joist. And I got that wrong, and some people pointed that out. But we don't really have the ability to go back and fix it, so
Is that
Interesting.
keeps the rim from letting the post lever out?
it has
Oh,
to
that
do
would
with
make sense.
has to do with the lever arm kind
Yeah.
of a thing.
That would make sense.
Yeah. I mean, whether it matters, I don't know.
I retract,
those-
I retract my statement.
Those deck rail attachments nowadays with the load requirements. I mean, to really meet the load requirements, which is like 300 pounds on a railing.
I think it's 300, yeah.
You have to. I mean, you really have to know how you're attaching your post to
One of
really
my-
meet that.
But I think it's relatively easy, depending upon the
hardware.
orientation, either with the hardware, with blocking and through bolts and stuff.
it's not hard to execute, but to actually put things in the
Yeah,
right places
right.
to make sure that you're actually doing
Yes.
what needs to be done.
You're just not going to drive a lag
it's
through it
information.
into the rim
Right.
and call it
Yeah.
done.
Right.
Yeah.
But it makes a rock solid guardrail post, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember. Did you guys ever see Mike Girton do his? I'm not sure if he does it anymore, but his deck railing demo. I saw it years ago, back when this was kind of building up to being a big issue that they addressed in the code and everything. And so he would start this seminar. He had like a set built, and he'd walk you through this what had been a code compliant guardrail or what everyone is doing. Essentially, this is how the 4x4 is attached. Here's the balusters and 4-inch centers. Here's the cap rail, and here's how I'm attaching it. He's kind of going like, we're all on the same page here, right? And everybody's like, yeah. And then he just grabs it with one hand and rips it off the deck. And he goes, now let me show you how we're gonna build it so it actually doesn't do that.
Because ultimately it was only held on by the nails through the rim to the end grain of the joist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not
It's like nothing's holding it there.
yeah. It kind of acts as a system and sort of, you have to factor some of that in, but it was a very dramatic way to teach it, I thought. And,
Perfect. Anyway, check out that series.
yeah.
You're going to have to be a member, I think, but it's
Yes,
worth
for
it.
sure. Yeah, it's totally worth it.
That finishing technique is cool, too.
What finishing technique? What did we do?
Remember how you sanded the...
Oh, yeah, we sanded the deck
Yeah.
with a floor sander.
Yes. It's awesome.
It was a fun project. I had a big beard in that project.
You had a ferocious beard. Ferocious.
We should bring that series back, Rob.
We should.
Brian,
We should.
what do you got?
This is tougher than the other best of segments for me, because I think we've done some good videos. I don't know, particularly a fan of the Project House series. I'm a particular fan of the houses videos that we were doing for a while. I've
I
never
didn't
seen
even think of
anyone do
those.
design videos like that are really just so nice and so well done. But I do have to choose something, so I'm gonna go with.
This is like an episode of like The Bachelor or something.
Survivor.
Should we go to a commercial break?
Right.
I'm gonna go with the Passive House build.
Yes, also featuring Chris Aarons. 'Cause he was the carpenter on that job.
Same carpenter.
And Steve Basic.
I'm Steve Basic, Mr. J. Fink, once again. And what's really neat about that, in as opposed to a lot of what we do in fine home building, is that we got to show a whole house build from the foundation to the finish, and we rarely get to do that. And we took and we did this in print too, as a companion articles and videos, and we really were able to put the time and resources towards showing not only a whole house build, but a high performance house build, passive house build, zero energy, right? That place they put PV on it, and
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I think it's net positive.
net positive. So all that put together makes it just a dynamite series. What was it? 6 parts?
I don't remember how many parts. It was somewhere around there, but
It was a lot of work.
Justin and Colin spent
we were there for the whole
4 months.
No, it was more than that.
Really?
Yeah, we were there for a long. It wasn't every day, but yeah.
Really good stuff.
I mean, I helped build some of it when it was really bizarre. Like if a carpenter didn't show up, it was like we got to keep this moving.
They just look at Justin.
It would. They're like, "Do you have a tool belt? You got to help us build this." I'm like, "I'm supposed to be taking pictures of this."
That's strange.
But it was cool. By the end of it, you start to, and it was really interesting from the point of view of watching a crew who had never done one of these before, because they didn't want to have any of it. It was
Right.
like, this is annoying. I want to build a house the way I know how to build
We
a
are
house.
not air sealing our mud sill.
like they don't get it. They don't, it's like, do we need all these layers? This is stupid.
But they
I
got on
this
board?
black goop all over me, all these extra layers of
Yeah.
sealant. But then you get to the point where I remember we were doing the blower door test at the framing stage, and we were all inside for the test because, once you pressurize, you can go around and look for some leaks. And so before they did it, it was me and our video guy Colin, and the carpenters were all there, the framers, because that was kind of part of it, is like take some ownership of your work and see how you did. And Steve Basic was in there with us, the architect and designer. So we all, I kind of suggested, I'm like, hey, before we get started, let's all place a bet on what number we hit. And it, at that point, I really felt like it started to shift. Like people were like, oh yeah, this is cool. Like we're doing something different than just
Yeah.
building something. We're trying to hit a level. Like there's a grade. And then you saw that number pop up on the screen, and people kind of, they get psyched, like, oh, we got to get this lower. We got to find where that hole is.
Like
That's
the gamification of home building.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah. My computer just ran out of battery, so I guess
That's the end of the show.
I guess I'm gonna
We're gonna have to call it.
give you my recommendation from memory. I don't feel it would be appropriate to pick one of my own videos. Although, if I did have to pick one
You
of
might
my
have to.
You've been featured in many a fine home building video.
I did particularly like the series we shot in Maine with Mike Maines on doing the what was it?
Mantle? Or
modern
the-
approach to classic carpentry or classic carbon cabinetry.
It was the
built-ins.
mantle built-ins, yeah.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
a mantle with 2 flanking bookcases. And Mike and I just, there was kind of like a little bit of a hesitation when we get started, like, how's this going to go? And then you had that moment of like the first hour, you just start clicking and going, we're just cruising and like, just operating. It's like a weird builder connection where you don't need to talk as much. You just are kind of flowing. It's a flow. I like that one a lot. But if I had to choose probably my favorite series, it would be the Larry Hahn framing series, where you really feel like, and I mean, I don't know where you can go to get the whole series, but I know that some of them have been popped up, and maybe the whole thing's on our site, but many of them have been resurfaced as part of this video vault thing that Brian has been kind of helping to curate.
That's the e-letter that you put together.
Yeah.
Right. It comes out once a week,
Thursdays.
and we because we've been in business for so many decades, and we have all this old footage.
Yeah.
So we started to resurface some of the classic stuff. Some of it's fun to watch because it's so different than what we're doing now, and some of it is still totally applicable.
Right.
I do remember not that long ago we were watching an episode, and I don't know, there was like maybe the entire staff in my office, and we could have just sat there just watching Larry Hahn frame walls.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
It was just like, this is awesome.
Until somebody said it's like you feel like you're in church. You church of Larry Hahn, watching
You
him
do.
build something. If you haven't seen it, it's just, we had the pleasure of meeting Larry Hahn, and it's just, he was incredible.
Yeah.
Just watching how efficient he was and how decisive and how, like, he knew where to put his effort. He didn't have any respect for putting it where he didn't think you needed to put it. He was a production-minded builder.
Sure.
But yeah, just an amazing guy to watch as a framer. And so I would highly recommend you check that out. I'm sure that Mike can put up links to it on FHB or findhomebuilding.com/podcast.
There's a ton of video on our website, and I realize that when I look for those videos and see what we have up, and look around for other things to include in that e-letter, it's like, geez, we got a lot of video. Just those "There's a Better Way" videos.
Yeah.
There's loads of them.
Chuck did a bunch of them.
And that's our tips column brought to life. And so many people love the tips column, and it's fun to see. Like, it's one thing to show a little drawing and description. It's another thing to see Chuck or Kevin, try to make these tips work.
It was I guess this is as of yesterday. I've finally hit the point here where I'm forgetting the stuff that I did. So we had an e-letter going out, and one of the videos, I think it was one you put together, and there was a tip video in there about how to back out a stuck screw. And this the image, like the title is like, okay, it's a trick for how to do this, but the image was like this little tube of some kind of paste and a screwdriver bit, and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Like, what is this tip? It actually got my interest. Like, and then I read the description thinking I don't have to watch this. I'll just refresh my memory. And it was like, editor Justin Fink shows yet. I'm like, I have no recollection of doing this
That
at
was
all.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
You were young.
Yeah.
You were young.
Yeah. So I couldn't, I realized that, and I was like, I can't watch this. I can't see myself that far back. It's too weird. Yeah. So somebody else is going to have to read the next question because I don't have a computer anymore. Rob, you're the new host. Take it away.
Pete writes, my question is on how to structure the outer walls of a basement. I've researched for so many hours, and there is so much conflicting information, it's hard to decide on what. Here's my plan, and I'd like some critique. My idea was to put XPS foam against the cinder blocks and tape the seams. As far as I was able to see, XPS at 2 inches thick acts itself as a moisture barrier. You take issue with that? Is that correct? Then, on top of XPS, just build the walls with studs. I would go for metal studs, perhaps add extra insulation, such as rock wool, or just leave the gaps empty and apply a vapor barrier if it's still needed, ? You take that to task. And then finish with drywall. My concern is allowing drainage between the XPS and concrete block wall. Are the grooves in the blocks enough to allow water to trickle, or should I use some sort of dimple mat? This would get expensive, $1,000 just for the dimple mat. Finally, what's the best way to attach the foam? And would there be any benefit to applying dry lock or similar coating prior to installing the foam? There's a lot in there.
A lot of questions. How would you rank Rob's job at reading that, Brian?
Well, I like how the guy's asking us questions and Rob's taking him to task. he wasn't giving us answers.
Disagree?
Wrong idea. You're on track here, you're off track here.
What's your problem with 2 inches of XPS acting as a moisture barrier?
Moisture barrier.
Well, the language maybe is not great.
is not accurate.
Well, yes, but we know what he means.
Do we? Because language means something in my words matter in my world.
Well, you don't want to get too specific, otherwise things get messy.
That's right. So, okay, he's insulating a cinder block wall from the inside. What are the things that he needs to be mindful of in terms of moisture management?
Well, 2 inches of XPS will do a good job.
Oh, really? That's going to manage bulk water?
No.
Okay, so let's start where we need to start.
So address bulk water from somewhere else. If you're finishing your basement,
Because he said this, would you address bulk water issues with a product like Drywall or Drylock?
No.
Or some kind of applied elastomeric membrane to the
let's just
wall?
start right there. Drylock is a
Okay.
paint.
Okay. Drylock is a thick paint. Drylock
Yes.
is a thick paint.
I don't need to say anything else about it besides that.
Okay.
Well, why don't for the sake of for the sake of clarity and expediency,
Do you want to take over?
Brian's ready to get
why
out
don't we
of
just
here.
why don't we just offer a system?
His real question in my heart and soul is the dimple mat question, right? That seems like he's got a fairly well thought out plan.
Sure.
Seems like he's roughly on track. We've covered basements on the show many times. He's concerned about, I got the foam on the walls. First of all, how do I stick it there? And the answer there is glue it or use mechanical fasteners.
Yep.
You can use little plastic anchors, like drill a hole and then push this anchor through the foam and it sticks into the hole and has kind of like a friction fit and it stays there. It's used a lot in commercial construction. I would just use spray foam. That's the easiest way. You put a couple of beads of spray foam on the wall, stick the piece of foam board to the wall, and then lean a piece of plywood or a stud at an angle so it presses that, like it pushes the foam board against the concrete and holds it there for 20 minutes until the spray foam sets up.
Okay.
That's the easiest way to do it.
Would you do that if you were managing kind of bulk water migration, like you knew there was some kind of coating or dimple mat on the exterior of the foundation?
If there's
Would you glue right to the block wall?
if there's bulk water on the inside,
Can we just say water?
if there's water, if
Well, no,
there's
because
water,
the vapor is the other issue.
Well, that's vapor.
if there's wet water
Oh, Brian's favorite. Wet water
on the inside
coming through your block wall,
coming through your block wall,
Yeah.
water,
even if it's seasonal.
Water.
even if it's seasonal,
Real wet.
Water.
you got to take care of that before you do any of this. You got to have a plan for that.
Yeah, but his plan might just be to have a dimple membrane where
Yeah.
it drains down to a footing drain.
Right. And then,
Okay, so
and
no
then
one's mentioned a footing drain.
and then he's
or,
done.
No, we're on the inside, right?
Yeah.
So there's no
Yeah, an interior curtain drain.
an interior curtain drain and,
Yep.
and a pump,
Yeah.
a sump. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, but he didn't mention that.
Your tone of voice indicates that you're arguing, but you're agreeing, and I'm confused.
No, but no one mentioned it.
That's what I was saying. Because I
Rob-
wanted to
Rob read
address bulk water.
Rob-
We're sticking foam to the walls.
Rob read the question
and we
at
got a
Mach 7.
waterfall.
That's what I
behind
said.
it.
Yes.
First of all, Rob read the question at the speed of light. Nobody could keep up with all the details. I would have read it slower. That's okay. Rob, you did a very similar thing in your basement. Why don't you just tell us what you did? Well, you did spray foam on the walls.
I did spray foam on the walls.
And
It's
you
a-
put
it's a
your
different
dimple
animal.
membrane on the floor and a little bit up the walls.
Yeah. So that
So
any,
that's pretty common
So any
approach.
water coming down, because I've also have like it's not a dry stack stone wall, but I still have a very textured wall. There's going to be some kind of drainage going on. But in a concrete block wall, I'd probably splurge and do the dimple membrane. I would put the XPS up. I would pin it to the wall.
What does that mean when you say pin it?
Mechanical fasteners.
Tap guns?
No. Well, I don't know. I think Hilti makes a screw. I don't know the model, but I think it's recommended for this application. We'll have to find out.
You don't know the model number?
I don't know the model number off the top of my head. I'm not Patrick McComb. And then I would, build.
Disappointing.
I would build a stud wall inboard of that, and I would fill it with Roxol or fibrous insulation.
You would add more insulation. I would not.
You would not. You would keep it at R. What would that be?
R10. Yeah, that's all you need.
Actually, that's not bad. Yeah.
It's already below grade.
Yeah, you're
Pretty good insulator.
Okay.
Don't waste more money by
You're pretty
putting
good.
more insulation in.
Definitely, either you have to seal all those seams.
With house wrap tape is the way to go there.
Yep.
Yep.
And that is your vapor barrier.
Correct. I think one of his
You don't need
concerns
poly.
was when he's attaching this rigid foam to the wall, is it okay that dimple membrane is only up the wall at the bottom, so that essentially his rigid foam is kind of kicked out at the bottom where it overlaps the dimple membrane, and I think that's fine. And like Rob said, if you think your wall's going to be getting wet a lot or it's damp to start with, then just use mechanical fasteners instead of adhesive. done like dinner.
Brian, what do you think? Are you satisfied with this response?
DUN?
Yeah. Yeah. As long as there's a drain.
Well, that was.
All
yeah.
I wanted was a drain.
All right, Brian, you got the next question. We're going to see if you can do better than Rob.
We got more questions?
I think that was it.
No, there's one more. You got to go up.
Which one do we
The
got?
motor question.
Motor?
Oh,
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Maybe it's the bottom, the stair rail with
Oh,
the
yeah.
motor.
Here we go. Jesse. Jesse writes,
Oh.
I'm building a stair handrail for some friends. I have all my tools set up in their living room. Should we stop there? And the other day,
Ex-friends.
ex-friends. The other day-
Is this a good setup? No.
And the other day, while I was gone, they were ripping a piece of plywood on my table saw and said it started binding, and he quickly shut off the saw. Well, when you turn it on, it now spins backwards very, very slowly. What's the diagnosis?
Did he actually say well?
He did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We're in a small town in Montana, and there are no tool repair places
you.
nearby. So a fried motor would mean a new saw. Is the portable 10-inch Bosch. Oh, it's the portable 10-inch Bosch. And man, I love that thing.
I think Rob did a better job with the question.
You think so?
Yeah. Brian's cadence was very.
I thought you did a good job.
Yeah?
I support you, Brian.
Felt like a kid in elementary school when you're asked to read out
That's
loud.
what I felt like. It's hard to pay attention.
Justin got bored.
I got bored. This is why I have to read them, because otherwise I just get checked out.
Small town in Montana. Sell the saw and enjoy the rest of your life.
I mean, if you're in a small town in Montana, can't
Okay.
you just ask anybody else, because everyone there knows how to do everything, because you're in Montana, and everyone has to learn to fend for themselves.
Our Eastern perceptions of the West. There.
Yeah. What's going on here is that you blew your motor in your saw.
So have your friend pay for it.
Yeah. And it's not.
They broke it.
It's never happened to me. Actually, that's not true. It happened on my motorcycle, on an old motorcycle. I
You
screwed up.
were complied with your old motorcycle?
Yeah, it got bound up.
Yeah.
In the chain. The starter motor on the motorcycle got screwed up, and it wanted to go in reverse instead. And that's what's going on with this saw. It's sometimes. He said it was spun backwards slowly, right?
Slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said very, very slowly.
So, I mean, if it was fast, you could just put the blade in backwards and maybe use the saw. But otherwise, I mean, I guess even if I was in a populated area, I'm not sure if I would.
Attempt to
Oh,
fix
it's a
it.
table saw, not a circular saw. So, yeah, I get it now, I guess, because
The portable 10-inch
yeah,
Bosch.
because that's not as cheap. Like a circular saw, it's like you pony up the 150 and you get a new one probably.
Right.
Or
But is this a motor replacement? And at that point,
probably.
is he only
Yeah,
a
I
few,
mean, you might
few
even
bucks
be able
away
to-
from a new saw?
You might be able to be able to fix that motor. I think it has something to do with the copper coiling on the motor and the magnets and the stator, and that's where I started to get lost. I just know that something in the motor has been fried,
Okay.
and now it's going the wrong direction. Like you reversed the polarity or something. I can't explain to you exactly what's going on here, but I know
It's fried.
what's going
So
on.
what you're telling this guy is that his saw is broken.
That's correct.
Awesome. I just wanted to clarify.
Yes. No, what I'm telling this guy is that he's unlikely to be able to fix it.
Yeah. Gotcha.
If he doesn't have a repair shop who is going to look at it and go, oh, yeah, no problem.
Right. I got this part out
I
back.
can do this for you, or it's going to cost this much, and you sure you want to do it, as opposed to getting a new one.
Are those motors universal things at all? Or like, do you have to get a Bosch motor for this saw? Like,
If you look on the underside of a lot of table saws, it's essentially a circular saw upside down. I mean, I haven't looked at, I'm not sure which model he's talking about, but there's a good chance it's a heavy-duty circular saw that was manufactured in a way to be bolted to
Right.
a trunnion, and not that means that you can just buy a circular,
circular saw down there?
But what it means is that it might be a part that's removable and
Yeah.
replaceable. But you might call Bosch and see, what are my options here? They're probably going to laugh at you though and say,
This
your
was
motor's fried.
yeah. This was designed to fail. This is planned obsolescence. So
Yeah.
buy a new one.
What's your warranty period?
Right.
Like, we just want to know how accurate we were.
Right.
All right. We got anything else?
I think that's it.
All right. Let's call that a show, huh?
That's a punchy one.
All right. visit finehomebuilding.com/podcast. Go to FH or send us a note at fhbpodcast@taunton.com. Visit Brian at brianpontilillo.com. And this is Justin for Brian, Jeff, and Rob saying keep craft alive and happy building.